皆さんこんにちは、しゅんです。今回は皆さんの暗唱のモチベを爆上げさせるための動画ということで撮っていきたいんですけれども、本題に入る前に2点ほどお知らせをさせてください。1点目っていうのが、先日僕の YouTube の登録者さんが1000人を突破しました。いつも見ていただいて本当にありがとうございます。皆さんからのいいねとかコメントとか非常に励みになっています。それから僕のレッスンをいつも受講していただいている生徒さんにも本当に感謝しています。ありがとうございます。今後ともよろしくお願いします。2つ目のお知らせは、僕は3月ぐらいからですね、週2本投稿でこの YouTube の動画を頑張って出してきたんですけれども、そろそろですね、大学の授業が始まる関係上、なかなか週2本投稿っていうのが難しくなってくると思います。ただ、基本的に週1回は必ず投稿しようと思っています。主に金曜日にアップしていきます。で、可能な時は週2本、火曜日とかにもう1本上げるようにしますので、今後も見ていただければなというふうに思います。では本題の暗唱なんですけれども、今回は1000人突破記念ということもあって、僕が暗唱をいっぱいやっていくっていう動画にしたいと思います。で、その前にちょっとだけ暗唱のメリットとかをお伝えできればなというふうに思うんですけど、僕以前暗唱についてのすごいメリットとかやり方とか詳しく解説した動画っていうのを作ってますので、それは概要欄にリンクを貼っておきます。もし見たことがない方はそちらも見ていただければなと思います。で、いろんな動画で僕は暗唱は素晴らしいですよ、最高の勉強法ですよっていうふうに言ってるんですけれども、本当に効果が絶大です。で、19世紀の考古学者で十数カ国語を話すことができたと言われているハインリヒ・シュリーマンという人がいます。彼もこの暗唱をメインでやっていたっていうふうに彼の著書の中に書かれています。彼の場合は作文をして添削してもらってそれを暗唱するっていう風な形でいろんな言語をマスターしていったという風に言われています。彼の著書古代への情熱っていうすごい面白い本があるので、興味のある方はこちらもチェックしてみてください。僕はですね、英語でたくさん暗唱してきましたし、今学習中のフランス語でもバリバリ暗唱をやっています。それですごい効果を実感しているので、皆さんにもぜひやっていただきたいなと思ってます。で、今回の動画ではですね、皆さんの暗唱に対する脳のブロックというか、そういうものを取り外してもらえるような動画にできればなということで撮っていこうと思ってるんですけれども、結構皆さん暗唱ってハードル高いとか、自分にはこんなに覚えられないとか、思われたりする方いると思うんですけど、頑張ったら意外とできるんですよっていうことをお知らせしたいです。今回5つそれなりの長さのものを暗唱していて、これだけでも結構大変な量だなっていうふうに思う方もいるかもしれませんが、実際僕はさっきお話ししたフランス語とかでもっと大量に暗唱とかしてますし、これまでも英語でこれ以上に圧倒的に暗唱してきてますので、意外といけるんですよっていうことを皆さんに知ってもらいたいなと思います。では今回僕が暗唱していくものの内容がこちらですね。まずはじめに3つほど英検1級のスピーキングの模範解答を暗唱していきます。1つ目がですね、23年第2回英日程の Are the effects of the loss of biodiversity over-exaggerated? 2つ目が Would the universal basic income for adults affect their motivation to work? 3つ目が23年第1回英日程の Are companies doing enough to eliminate discrimination in the workplace?この3つをやった後に4番目に英検1級24年第3回の大問2の文章、ジャンボーズという文章ですね。これを空欄を埋めた状態で全文を暗唱します。5つ目はですね、結構前に出した暗唱の動画っていうのがあります。去年出した動画ですね。そこで暗唱したものなんですけれども、ハリー・ポッターと死の秘宝パート1から3人兄弟の物語っていうものを暗唱します。これ僕が大好きなものなので、改めて今回やっていこうかなと思います。で、内容を知らない方もいると思うので、ここに関しては英語字幕をつけておこうと思います。これ僕がなんで暗唱しようかと思ったかというと、元の映画を、僕ハリー・ポッター好きなんですけれども、映画を見てるときに、このエマ・ワトソンがこの物語を朗読するっていうシーンがあるんですよ。で、その時のエマ・ワトソンの英語の発音、綺麗なイギリスアクセントの発音なんですけど、それを聞いた時に、なんて美しいんだと思って、で、僕もこれを暗唱しようっていうふうに思って、それがきっかけで暗唱しようと思いました。ハリー・ポッターと死の秘宝のパート1のその3人兄弟の物語っていうところだけを抜粋してある動画っていうのがYouTube に上がってましたんで、それリンクに貼っておくので、ぜひそちらもチェックしてみてください。はい。で、今回はですね、一つ一つの暗唱はノーカットでお届けします。なので、ところどころちょっと詰まってるところとかもあると思うんですけど、その方が逆にリアルかなと思いますので、一つ一つの暗唱内容っていうのはノーカットでいきたいと思います。Are the effects of the loss of biodiversity over-exaggerated? Biodiversity is essential to life on Earth, and the effects of its loss cannot be over-exaggerated. There are three main reasons for my position.First, biodiversity is a foundation of natural ecosystems. Every ecosystem is made up of a huge variety of plant and animal species, and the loss of even one can set off a negative chain reaction. For example, if a predator species were to be exterminated, the animals that it had previously killed could become too numerous and take away food from other species. This could threaten the entire ecosystem. Secondly, biodiversity loss could have a negative impact on human health. Many medicines essential for our well-being come from nature. As species vanish, the potential for new discoveries decreases, and this could impact our ability to combat diseases. Finally, loss of biodiversity could have serious economic consequences. Modern agriculture centers on a relatively small number of plant species, such as rice, corn, and wheat. We should maintain genetic diversity within these species so that they can adapt to climate change and survive any major disasters or new diseases. For these reasons, I feel strongly that society should pay more attention to the loss of biodiversity and take steps to deal with this extremely serious issue. Would the universal basic income for adults affect their motivation to work? I strongly disagree with the idea that basic income would negatively affect people's motivation to work. Firstly, I'd like to talk about human nature. People do not work just to earn money. Although some people may complain about their jobs sometimes, the majority of us find our jobs at least somewhat rewarding. People would soon find that their lives were becoming monotonous and empty if they were unemployed. Another important reason is that basic income plans usually only provide sufficient money for a simple lifestyle. People want much more than just plain food and a small home. The majority of people would continue working in order to buy luxury items and enjoy the good things in life. Finally, most people have a strong sense of obligation and would not want to take advantage of society too much. While some people, such as disabled or elderly people, may be greatly helped by basic incomes, as long as people are capable of working, I'm sure that they would want to remain productive at work because they know society would collapse if no one was contributing to it. Therefore, because of human nature, human desire, and obligation, I'm convinced that the vast majority of people would continue to work just as hard if a basic income system were implemented someday. Are companies doing enough to eliminate discrimination in the workplace? Although companies have made a certain amount of progress in reducing workplace discrimination, much still needs to be done. I'd like to discuss promotions, issues for women who want children, and hostile working environments. To me, the biggest issue is promotions. Sexist and racist attitudes at many companies make it difficult for women and minorities to get management positions, even when they are more capable than their co-workers. Promotion decisions should never be based on factors like race or sex. Another issue is the difficulty women face in continuing to work after having children. Sexist stereotypes about women as homemakers rather than company employees cause many women to quit working. Companies need to make more effort to ensure that their policies do not discriminate against women who want to continue their careers after having children. Hostile working environments are also a problem. If co-workers make racist or sexist comments or jokes, it can be extremely harmful to people's mental health. Such behavior is still very common, and companies need to provide training and implement policies to prevent it. In conclusion, it is essential that firms reduce discrimination in terms of promotions and for women who want to keep working after having children, and do more to ensure every staff member can work in an environment free from discrimination and bias. Jumbles. In 2023, the James Webb Space Telescope discovered dozens of pairs of free-floating, planet-sized objects. known as Jupiter mass binary objects, or jumbos. These bodies tend to be roughly similar to Jupiter in size. They are bound to each other gravitationally, but do not revolve around a star. Though exciting, the discovery has raised questions about how these Jupiter-sized objects could have formed. One possible explanation is that they were created out of the gas left over from the birth of stars, just as planets like Jupiter were. The problem, however, is that scientists cannot easily explain how the pairs could have escaped their original orbits. If the approach of an interstellar intruder had somehow liberated them from the gravitational grip of a star, such a cosmic disturbance would also have had a high probability of shattering the gravitational bond between the two objects. A second explanation is that, like stars, they form when an extremely dense region in a cloud of gas collapses in on itself. It has been suggested that they are like brown dwarfs, bodies that never gain the tremendous mass required to spark the nuclear fusion process that ignites stars. However, in the case of stars, while about 3/4 of the most massive ones exist in pairs, as they diminish in mass, the odds that they will form binary pairs are drastically reduced. Even pairs of brown dwarfs, which are far more massive than jumbos, are exceptionally scarce. It would be logical, then, to expect that jumbos would be even more uncommon. While scientists are still debating the processes that lead to jumbo formation, computer simulations of a massive star sweeping by a solar system do offer support for the first theory. In the simulation, stars intruding on a solar system resulted in the ejections of solitary large planets when the planets' orbits were widely spaced. In contrast, however, when planets with sufficient mass were in proximity to one another, the formation of jumbos was common enough to account for their prevalence. While the odds of planets being ejected in pairs from a solar system once appeared to be extremely low, researchers are optimistic that an enhanced understanding of jumbos may be just around the corner. There were once 3 brothers who were traveling along a lonely winding road at twilight. In time, the brothers reached a river, too treacherous to pass. But being landed in the magical arts, the 3 brothers simply waved their wands and made a bridge. Before they could cross, however, they found their paths blocked by a hooded figure. It was Death, and he felt cheated. Cheated because travelers would normally drown in a river, but Death was cunning. He pretended to congratulate the 3 brothers on their magic, and said that each had earned a prize for having been clever enough to evade him. The oldest asked for a wand more powerful than any in existence, so Death fashioned him one from an elder tree that stood nearby. The second brother decided he wanted to humiliate Death even further, and asked for the power to recall loved ones from the grave. So Death plucked a stone from the river and offered it to him. Finally, Death turned to the third brother. A humble man, he asked for something that would allow him to go forth from that place without being followed by Death. And so it was that Death reluctantly handed over his own cloak of invisibility. The first brother traveled to a distant village, where with the elder wand in hand, he killed the wizard with whom he had once quarreled. Drunk with the power that the elder wand had given him, he bragged of his invincibility. But that night, another wizard stole the wand and slit the brother's throat for good measure. And so Death took the first brother for his own. The second brother journeyed to his home, where he took the stone and turned it thrice in hand. To his delight, the girl he'd once hoped to marry, before her untimely death, appeared before him. Yet soon she turned sad and cold, for she did not belong in the mortal world. Driven mad with hopeless longing, the second brother killed himself, so as to join her. And so Death took the second brother. As for the third brother, Death searched for many years, but was never able to find him. Only when he attained a great age did the youngest brother shed the cloak of invisibility and give it to his son. He then greeted Death as an old friend and went with him gladly, departing this life as equals. はい、ということでいかがだったでしょうか。意外とね、頑張ればこのぐらい簡単に覚えることができます。一応ね、目安というか僕がどのくらい練習したかというと、各音声30回ずつぐらいですね。30回ずつぐらい練習しました。見ながらやるのと何も見ずにやるのを合わせて30回くらいです。スムーズに読めるようにするためには30回とかもっとね40回50回必要だと思うんですけど、覚えるだけだったら頑張れば20回ぐらいでいけると思います。冒頭でも紹介した暗唱の動画でやり方を解説していますので、そのやり方にのっとってもらえれば20回30回ぐらいで覚えること自体はできると思います。というわけで今回暗唱をやっていったんですけれども、そのうちライブ配信でね暗唱をやるみたいなね、暗唱ライブ配信みたいな、なんかそういうのをやってもいいかなとか思ったりもしました。暗唱はねすごい効果があるので皆さんもぜひやっていただきたいなと思います。で最後に改めまして、チャンネル登録1000人突破ということで皆さんいつも見ていただいてありがとうございます。今後もよろしくお願いします。では今回もありがとうございました。現在僕は英検1級合格を目指されている方向けのオンラインでの個別指導のレッスンを提供しています。一人一人に合わせて丁寧にレッスンプランを提供し、合格まで皆様に寄り添っていきます。1回30分の無料カウンセリング&体験授業っていうものも行っていますので、興味のある方は概要欄の公式 LINE を追加お願いします。そちらの方でレッスンの詳細などもご案内しております。一緒に英検1級合格を目指して頑張っていきましょう。それではまた次の動画でお会いしましょう。See you later.